Friends, Fever fans, welcome back to another Fever Replay podcast. Normally, your weekly source of breakdowns of Fever games and news, but we're coming to you with a special edition podcast. But before we get too deep into it, we got to remember this podcast is brought to you by the love of the game. Sometimes you fight for the love of the game. I'm Chris Ord, and we have Keisha Gallagher, my tenacious co-host. Say hi, Keisha.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. Fight night in the WNBA. What could be more exciting? Here in Indy, it's all anyone wanted to talk about. At my work, people would come in the door, and I'd be talking about it, and they'd be like, yeah, but did you see her get her in the eye first? It would be like first thing out of their mouth as they walked in the door today. So that's what we're talking about here. We've discussed before, we don't like to go too into the drama, but some things go beyond drama. And that's where we'd like to take it. We're going to take this conversation about a very, to be honest, fun game of basketball, although a little stressful injury-wise. I was very scared as the game went on. But we're going to talk a little bit about this particular basketball game and try and go a little deeper than just the memes or the highlights and look at the game as a whole. So take it away, Keisha.
Thanks so much, Chris. And I think that point you just made about being a little bit scared is sort of the overarching problem here with how the officials were managing that game. The fact that there was a sense of fear that something bad is going to happen is not how basketball should feel when you're watching it. But yeah, I kind of wanted to focus in on the build-up to the eye poke or the face slap and what I was actually seeing occurring on the court, not so much possession-wise or play-wise, but little incidences that just kept creating this tension. So in the first quarter...
And for those of you, though, who live under a rock and tune into this podcast because you don't have time to watch the actual games and you don't have access to other forms of internet, just podcasts, I want you to know that what happened was we had the Connecticut Sun at home, at our home in Indianapolis, playing the Fever, and we beat them handily. The game was close early. It was like a little tight, but it was clear we were the better team. And slowly, over time, we ended up winning by about 20 points. That's kind of what happened. But during that, there were a couple fights. So, just wanted to give you that context. But go, Keisha.
A couple fights. Okay, yeah, so it kind of starts for me in the first quarter where I was seeing a frustrated-looking Aaliyah Boston. She's not hitting every shot. It's clear that she's not feeling as confident as that quarter continues, but she's still facilitating. She's pushing through it. Mitchell starts off strong. There's great ball movement between her and Hull. And during that time, the Fever is capitalizing on the fact that they have this new chemistry and connection because JC and CC are so closely guarding each other, the other one cannot breathe without inhaling the other one's face. They are skin to skin all the time, and it's really starting to wear on Clark. I can see the frustration growing. There's a deep post pass into the Fever. They score. The momentum is with the Fever. And then there's a no call against Charles less than half a minute in the first. And I can see Charles at this point starting to get really pissed off, like feeling like she's being unfairly roughhoused, and there's no calls. So there's a little bit of a boiling point that we're meeting at the end of the first, and that spills over into the second almost immediately.
Yeah, and a little bit of context too. So JC and CC were both drafted in the same class. They both played in the Big Ten. They both play the same position. So they've been fighting each other for a long time. So it's not like these are two people that met today and were like, boy, you're really in my face. They're like, oh, you again.
Right.
And that's a big piece, I think, of the tension as well, on top of everything else.
Oh, yeah, big time. There is healthy competition there. Just exactly what you were highlighting. Same position, similar style of play, very aggressive, great drivers, great shooters. So they've also been compared against one another their entire collegiate careers, and were, top 5 of the drafts of their graduating class. So
yeah,
lots
and I
to
feel
discuss.
like when you start this story with the no call, that's a great place to start, because no calls in both leagues of basketball are the most frustrating thing, because there's sure they gave us now the ability to challenge, but you can't challenge a no call. That got us last game. I mean, we won the game, but it still got us. That's where Caitlin got a technical, because there was a no call. We challenged, but they can't overturn a no call. So Caitlin got pretty upset. She got a technical. And so here we are again, another no call. And to me, when we talk about this game, while what the players were doing is half the story, the other half of the story is what the officials were doing. When Coach Stephanie White talked about it after the game, she said, this is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete. And they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competition. I started talking to the officials in the first quarter, and we knew this was going to happen. You could tell it was going to happen. So they've got to get control of it. They've got to be better. And this no call that you're saying, in the beginning of the story, is emblematic of that. And Stephanie White, anyone watching, we were concerned. We were like, oh, shoot. This is going to get ugly. We need the refs to get a hold of it. And
they just simply didn't. Start of the second. And then remember, and I don't know if anyone has it fresh in their mind, so I just want to be as detailed as possible about these events, because this is pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing on everyone's last nerve. So at the end of the first, Boston was basically triple team, and it ended in a jump ball, which was a pretty much led to a missed open look and then another jump ball with a lot of contact. So this is creating a lot of tension with close physical contact. And then we have the first really big issue where you see Clark and JC kind of mouthing off to each other, and Clark clearly pushes JC. She has hands on Clark and she pushes her. So it's spilling over. We're not even playing close basketball anymore. Now we're pushing each other. Okay, and I'm no J.C. Sheldon fan as a Iowa Hawkeye fan, so I get it, but I don't like hands-on contact like that. It's not excusable. I get it. They're playing chippy, but that to me, that should have started with some sort of conversation between the officials, because we're pushing. And it doesn't get any cleaner after that. You see another incident with Nelson Adota she has a huge shot over Howard that she basically shoulder checked her to the ground and looks down at her disrespectfully. We're still adding this pressure and this pressure and this pressure. There's another no-call incident between Lexi and Bria Hartley, where Lexi ends up on the ground and Bria Hartley steps over her, which is hugely disrespectful. And then another no-call on Charles. And then there's another offensive foul against Hartley where she knocks Mitchell in the mouth. And then there's the Mabry box-out foul on Hull. And this is all happening in really close minutes apart. We're not talking about big breaks throughout the game. This is still just the second quarter. Then less than a minute left in the second, an offensive foul on Clark with a moving screen. We finally end the quarter with Cunningham plowing into JC with another offensive foul. Halftime, we're up 47-39. Why is this game getting so physical? What is going on? That's halftime.
I do feel like it's easy for me to say from like my ivory tower of having a very good team this year. It felt like the Sun were feeling disrespected. I know it's hard to play in front of the Fever crowd. Players talk about it all the time. The Fever crowd is not particularly disrespectful. They're just energetic. In fact, I'm always shocked how you don't usually hear refs you suck from the Fever crowd. You hear that from a lot of crowds. But you don't hear that. The Fever crowd is just very enthusiastic. And I could imagine being a team that is certainly kind of undermanned right now and definitely underpowered compared to the Fever, being like, you know what, like, there's more than a chip on their shoulder. Mm-hmm. And these are women that they're like, we can play against you, and then things get a little chippy. It's going back and forth. I'm not pointing all of the fingers there, but at the same time, like, I could get why one of the ways this game went was a very physical game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm thinking at halftime, they're going to clean it up. They're going to start calling it tighter. It's going to lead to just a much better second half. And I'm hopeful the Fever are going to continue. They're playing really well. I'm hoping they're going to continue. And we're on this heater, right? Third quarter starts, and we're still getting really close contact on Clark. Hull knocks down a big three after Mabry has a big miss. Mitchell hits another big three, and all of a sudden we're back up by 12 after this incredible layup by Howard. Around around 5:50.
Let's just take a quick break and say this is the first time I feel like we've had a great Howard game with Caitlin in the game, which is exciting and what we've been waiting for. But anyway, not what we're talking about tonight.
Though, but yeah, that is a great point, and I agree. I think Howard had a phenomenal performance in this game.
Double.
Yeah, and it's in the shadow of this crazy drama, but yeah, great job, Howard. But so after that really great layup by Howard, around 5 minutes, 50-ish seconds, I believe, Clark has what she thinks is a no call being guarded by JC, and you see her reaction to it. And I now know that is the moment where it's going to go from the next foul is going to cause like another shoving match to someone's going to start screaming. I just knew after that contact that Clark felt a type of way.
And just a reminder, like when you watch a game where the refs' whistles are tight, it really slows down the game. And that's like a big complaint you'll hear when refs have a real tight whistle. People will be like, come on, like, let them play. They can't get into any rhythm. They can't. That mentality would have stopped this heated game in its tracks.
Yeah.
Like, it would have. If we're having to stop all the time for free throws, if they're, like, having to review things, if it's be like, goodness gracious, and all of the heat would have dissipated. Not all of it, but it would have at least fought against this bubbling kind of tension that existed.
Right. But instead, I think this is really the point where Clark lost her patience, is after that no call, where she thinks she's fouled by Sheldon. Charles is called, well, there's a foul called on Clark that is clearly not a foul. And Clark wants Stephanie White to challenge it, and she looks to the bench, and they review the play, and Tina Charles rushes the officials to give her the ball so she can start the free throws, which is a smart basketball play, but it shouldn't have even been called a foul. I looked at it 3 or 4 times. I'm not seeing contact that I would have called against Clark again on that shot. But I think that really set her off. Next play, she's poked in the eye or slapped in the face, and it looks like...
And that was a physical play, too, because Caitlin... They were fighting at the free throw line. Caitlin's given a lot of shoulder shoving, marginal, maybe sort of foul situation. If you were calling a tight game, would have been a foul, but not the game they'd been playing so far. So this is how the refs wanted them to be playing.
Right, and I think that whatever happened to her face, she was already past the point of frustrated, and now she feels like she's been like popped in the face or hit in the eye, and then she basically collides with Sheldon. I don't know if Sheldon was trying to walk into her path or not. I really can't tell. I don't know if that was her momentum or what was going on.
I'm going to stop you because I've seen an alternate angle from the reverse of where the TV cameras, and it was super clear. In fact, let's watch it together, shall we? Let's watch it. Because I feel like it's super clear. Let me pull this up.
But basically what I'm saying is as I'm watching it, so it's not with after the fact. I'm saying like as I'm watching it, just in real time, what you see during the game, I don't go clearly she's trying to or not. I just see them collide and I see another push off.
Okay. Ready for this? This is the master angle.
This is great podcast content.
No, we're just gonna.
Oh, yeah, that's not good. Yeah, and I hadn't.
One more time here. And then she's like, "Hey, bump! What? Bumped again? Hit to the ground."
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're gonna catch back up from we just watched it.
So, seeing the contact, you see Caitlin push Sheldon, and then immediately the Sun come to defend her. Tina Charles gets in her face and is pointing in her face, and then Mabry loses her mind and shoves her to the ground. And that all, I really think, is bad officiating playing out in a game that should have not even gotten close to that point. It was so many no calls, so many bad calls, just pushing and pushing and pushing on everybody's patience and last nerve. It just was really, really bad.
And to me, like, first off, as a huge Caitlyn fan, with that caveat, right? You see her get hit in the face, and it was nowhere near the ball. This was a swipe of some sort of, like, frustration. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Was she trying to punch her in the face? That would be extremely stupid. But she was frustrated and lashing out. Hits Caitlyn in the face. Then Caitlyn just simply turns to be like, and screams, "What are you doing?" Where she gets shoved a second time. And then out of nowhere, without even looking, Mabry knocks her to the ground. To me, that was like, as a fan of this woman, extremely frustrating. And like multiple dangerous things happening to her within like 5 seconds. And like, so to put it in the context of officiating, like this is the result of bad officiating.
Yeah.
But sadly, it's just another piece to the puzzle. Because here, everyone watching at this point, including the commentators, are just like, well, Mabry's going to get ejected. You know, she came over to something going on. And we see it all the time. People like push, and the second one's always the one that's punished worse. And so we're like, wow, like she came in here, something she wasn't involved in, dead ball, and shoves somebody all the way to the ground, aggressively, hard, on purpose, stares him down afterwards. And you're like, okay, you know, she's going to be ejected. No, not even a flagrant. She just gets a technical, which is also what Caitlyn gets.
And Charles.
Yeah. And it's just like, wait, what? And that is a clear as day message to the players. Hey, knock it off. That's as strong a language as they use to the players. Hey, you guys, knock it off. Keep it between the whistles. That's when we like you to push each other. Just while the game is playing.
I was just really baffled by the no ejection. Really baffled by it.
It was an insane thing.
The fact that it was, 3 technicals, a flagrant. I just feel like that game was out of their control the entire time. And then like watching the rest of the third quarter play out, it didn't get any better. Like the Fever were still playing. The Fever as a team were not playing badly. It just was bad officiating and a lot of frustration throughout the rest of the quarter up until the end with I'm not even really sure what that was. I don't know.
Let me tell you what happened. This is when Indianapolis Darling, as I will call her from now on, because you don't live here. The people here love Sophie Cunningham as of last night at about 9 o'clock. They love Sophie. So what happened, first off, Sophie's been a part of this, and she considers herself a kind of wild card player. She considers part of her identity to be maybe an enforcer. She doesn't have the body of an enforcer, but she has the mindset have won. And so she's been stewing this whole game. Like, this is BS. That's my star player. I'm feeling like I'm on a fantastic team that really has a shot this year. I can't deal with this. On top of that, she was the person I was most concerned about because she's aggravated her ankle twice this year. She's wearing a big brace. Things were getting pushy and shovey, and I was like, I don't want to see one of our players that's like coming off of an injury get injured again. And about 45 seconds before that final scuffle happens, she's actually on the ground. JC had pushed her down. Mm-hmm. And she's holding her ankle. She wasn't in the last play because she was on the ground holding her ankle. So she, on top of everything, is sitting here stewing like this lady.
Nice.
Almost just took me back out of the season. I don't like that. And so she's back, and all of a sudden JC gets a fast break. Now, we've been over this on the pod. Fast break doesn't look like you can stop it. One option for players is to foul. The foul that is preferable to everyone is to hug them. That's what we've gone over in previous pods. She decides, and you see it in the moment. She's coming down, and she's like, oh, this is a moment where I'm allowed to foul somebody I hate very, very much. And she goes to hug, but this hug is to a head, which is very much not okay. Not an acceptable way to foul. So she grabs her around the head, doesn't quite throw her to the ground, but JC was moving fast. She gets thrown to the ground by the action. And then the two begin to have words. There's hair pulling. It's fantastic. Since then, I've watched slow-mo of Sophie, Indianapolis Darling, holding JC by the back of the head and speaking very clear words to her. She had things to say to this woman. It was very exciting. They all get ejected. Fair. Not fair compared to the previous non-ejections. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, Stephanie White, when asked about Sophie's foul, says it was a flagrant foul. And they go, what were your thoughts? Blah, blah. Should she have done it? She said, it's a flagrant foul. That was her response. Now, the Connecticut coach said, I don't know why my players were ejected when they did nothing wrong. And to me, that is a big difference in accountability between the two coaches, and possibly why one of the teams has had some trouble this year when it comes to fouling.
Yeah. So the hug around the head was crazy.
Hug around the head was crazy. I'm not saying it wasn't. I agree with Coach.
But this is what I want to say about that, because Sophie, again, used to be for the Mercury, so I've had frustration with her. I have to bring us back to when the Fever played against the Mystics, and Kiki Iriafin fouled her pretty hard, and Sophie popped up and got crazy in Kiki's face about a foul that was nowhere near the level of this foul.
No, agreed. But the whole stadium, because I want to remind you, every time Mabry or JC had the ball, all you could hear was boos. You could barely hear the commentators. And then after Sophie, Indianapolis Darling, hugs her around the head, all you could hear was chants of Sophie. Sophie, Sophie. And I just got to say, when the refs aren't going to take control, it leaves room for someone else to take control. And what happened was Sophie took control of the end of that game. Did it have an effect on the game? Absolutely not. There were 45 seconds left. It was meaningless basketball-wise, but it meant a lot to Indianapolis. They saw a woman who was willing to stand up when the refs wouldn't.
Oh, get out of here with that.
I live here. I'm so sorry. Normally, I try to be objective. This one,
you could feel that way.
You're going to have to bring me down.
No.
Bring me back down to earth.
You could feel that way, Indianapolis Darling boy. But it's really, I think that's just, that's the highlight of them having no control, is the fact that there was only 45 seconds left in a game that they were already winning. She was so pissed off about a bad call where she felt like someone who already hurt their superstar guard and got away with it. Also, just now, again, like you mentioned, took her out after a pretty annoying series of injuries with her ankle. So I get the frustration, but if you had done your job as an official, we wouldn't be at this point, and she wouldn't be tackling her to the ground.
I agree 100%. But here's the thing. We live in a broken world, not a perfect one. And in this broken world, we need broken heroes. Like Sophie. Goddamn.
Boo. Boo.
I have a friend at work who watches no basketball at all. She listens to our podcast. She's a big fan of us. She texted me this morning at like 7:30 in the morning. She's on vacation. She wasn't at work today. She said, I think my new favorite basketball player is Sophie Cunningham.
You know what? And that's the thing about this type of, so this is, I don't want to go too long, but something I was discussing with my coworker today was there's in other sports there's a lot of discussion about having more like cameras or more kind of to take the human element out of it.
I agree 100%. I want that.
Well, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I think that this is something that is a part of all sports, is like the call shouldn't make or break like huge important events, but these types of things, I think that there's an attractiveness for the leagues because it keeps people talking and it keeps
does. It really does.
It's like free advertisement.
It's the dangerous place. Like, you know, I'm going to waffle back and forth aggressively between loving what Sophie did and objectively wanting the league to succeed. The WNBA is in this weird, hungry place. Like, that whole mentality of act like you've been there before. That is not how the WNBA is acting. The leadership is not acting like they've been here. Oh, we have popularity. Let's all be cool and show them how upstanding and legitimate a league we are. That is not the mentality of the W. They're like, give us the attention. We need it all. We need this. We need that. Blah, blah, blah. Ooh, let's make the fever in the sky be a thing. Ooh, let's make Angel Reese and CC be mortal enemies. Like, it's crazy. That's how they act. To kind of wrap up, like we said, the main focus really is the officiating. I, on a feral level, enjoyed the fighting, obviously. Everyone does. But I want to just take a moment here and kind of consider why it is, because I was talking to my wife, and she's like, yeah, but is the WNBA that bad? Like, you know, there's all kinds of leagues. There's college. There's high school. It's worse. These women should be doing better. But Stephanie White put it in a nice context when she said, their job is hard. The game has changed so much. Players are faster, they're better, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're as good as they've ever been, they're as athletic as they've ever been. The game is fast now. Things are happening quickly. Everybody's getting better except the officials. So we've got to find a way to remedy it. So, like, I think to review, like, the state of where officiating is in the WNBA, I think we want to look at the broader context. So, like, the NBA, the WNBA, and the NBA G League are all part of the NBRA, National Basketball Referee Association. So they're all, like, part of the same association, except for each league has their own collective bargaining agreement. So they all are paid in different scales. The NBA paid much better. The G League and the WNBA are paid at a pretty similar scale. But when you consider that both the G League and the WNBA are part-time positions, and they only get paid, I believe it's around $500 per game, and the G League is a much longer season. It mirrors the NBA season. And the WNBA is a much shorter season, really. It's just kind of an extended summertime season. You really get a clear view that the WNBA officiating is the bottom of that bracket. It's at the very bottom. It's not like people who have been reffing their whole life. This is their passion. That's where they want to be. They want to make it to the NBA and make real money that can support their family. if you think about the amount of money we're talking about, consider like your job, whatever job you do out there, Fever friends, if they were only getting paid that much, and if it was a part-time position, it was only during the summer, would the person continue doing your job? Would they continue doing it well? Or would they consider moving on once they got good enough to do so? You know? Mm-hmm. And that's like the state of where we're at. I don't have, just like Stephanie White, I don't have a solution to that. But it's clear that we have a problem. And I would love if the WNBA fixed it. Do you think they should fix it?
I think they should for sure. No, I do think they definitely need to fix it. And then something that, like, I'm not even really sure what that looks like as far as increasing the amount these officials are paid. Do we have a longer WNBA season? Do we require better qualifications? Like, what does that look like? And I'm curious to know if these types of games are enough proof that something does have to change so that the powers that be can make that a reality.
I do feel like that's, if we're gonna put a nice little bow on top, the nice thing about all of the extra attention that Caitlin Clark garners is these moments. Now, Caitlin has to deal with a lot of crap that comes with it. Like, you know, her and Stephanie during the post-game were very angry that this is what everyone wanted to talk about. At one point they said they were done talking about it, and they're like, we can talk about basketball. Did anyone want to talk about the game? You know, like, they're like, we made the Commissioner's Cup finals, if anybody cares, you know. There's a bunch of negative, but one positive is everyone's looking at this, everyone's pointing fingers, and everyone pretty much who watched the game agrees it was the officiating. Like, these are women who are trying really hard, they're competing, they're getting frustrated. That's what's going to happen if you leave room for that. And the officiating, we've seen in the past, can kind of nip that in the bud and not create an environment where this is how games have to get played out. Anyway, so with that, don't get excited, Fever fans. We're still just doing once a week, unless another fight breaks out. And we'll be back.
We're here only once a week, and if there's a fight.
And if there's a fight, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It seems very fair. All right, well, that's it for this special edition of Fever Replay. We hope you're all well. We hope you're all staying healthy, that none of you gets injured again by the vile Connecticut Sun.
Oh my God. The vile?
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.